Tell us more. What else? What else is in it? What's the second part of the book?
Okay, the second part of the book, it describes in detail how the Costa Rican was cruising in Riverside Drive, and he picked me up. He didn't speak English, and we became companions for 40 years until he died in 1989. But the second part includes my telling of his autobiography, how he was raised in Costa Rica, and I described his parents, his experiences as a teenager, why he came to the United States, how he introduced me to the president of Costa Rica. He describes my being raised in this little town where you didn't talk about cancer, you didn't talk about homosexuality, you didn't talk about dancing or beer or sin. Everybody was a Bible Belt individual, and how as soon as I got out of that town, I rejected everything that I had been brainwashed into believing. It tells how I went to the colleges, and how I went into the Army, how I taught in a private school on 86th Street here in the city, how we lived in Hell's Kitchen together, and it describes not only subjects, but also dates, when we did such and such.
Roughly how many pages?
It's 524 pages, and it pretty much covers my autobiography up to this point, and completely Fernando's biography.
Now I noticed you're calling this Volume 1. Are your readers going to be entitled to a couple more
Yes. There will be Volume 2, which could be finished yet this year, and it will include one of my details about one of my paramours, Gilbert Price, a 3-time Tony nominee. In those days, if you were gay, and particularly teaching in a public school, you remained closeted. So it's the story of my being closeted all the time that I was a teacher. But I had paramours, and also Fernando did. It also describes my friendship with Sir Arthur C. Clarke, with Edward LeBlanc, who was the Prime Minister of the little island of Dominica, with my close friendship with Taslima Nasreen. She's one of the leading feminists of our time. And it also goes into how I have been raising a teenage boy whose father was Baby Doc Duvalier's bodyguard. And as a journalist in Haiti, I met the father. We became good friends. When the father was assassinated 7 years ago, I have been helping raise the boy.
Tell us more about that, or when will that one be released?
That I think I can finish yet this year. Then Volume 3, that will be the last. It will tell about how I founded Philosophedia. Philosophedia is something like Wikipedia, except the emphasis is upon philosophy, upon people who are academics interested in ethics and morality and aesthetics and logic rather than in religion. And it will also include blogs that I have had on the web since the year 2000.
So, who would be your primary audience for the 3 volumes?
Well, so far as the recording information goes, anybody in the technical end who wondered what it was like in the 1960s, because in those days you presented the entire project, and you went to the Brill building, you found somebody to buy it. Today, of course, you have to go in with the program all finished, completely ready to show in a movie, for example. But the other audience would be the people that I grew up with back in the Bible Belt. I don't think they're going to like to read my disapproval of having been raised in that particular way of thinking. Also, in the world of sociology, the details I present in an academic way about what it was like to be gay during the 40s up to the 80s or so, these are entirely unusual facts which have not been written about as detailed as I have. I wrote one book just about cruising on 42nd Street.
What is it titled, and can you show us?
That's called
that
Cruising the Deuce. Cruising the Deuce. And I wrote it under a pseudonym because, as a public school teacher, I didn't want people to know. But in here, I describe every movie house on 42nd Street, both sides of the street, but what went on in the balconies, what went on in the men's room, nobody watched the pictures, and why it was such a bad part of New York City and had to be cleaned up. Many people have heard about it, but they've never read the details which I really describe literally how people were having sex in the movie houses.
Where can one find that book? And
you
what
can
formats?
also go to Chelsea Books and get copies.
All right. Is it only in paperback, or do you also
It's only in
support?
paperback, yes. Well, it will be made into e-books. All my books will be made into e-books.
So, will this be available now in Kindle and on the Nook? Perhaps on Barnes & Noble's website or Amazon?
Perhaps, yes.
All right. We look forward to that.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, and thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank you.